Wondering what is happening in the Earth's atmosphere leads you to look up in the sky where there are different cloud formations. You might notice the wind blowing like dancing in different directions. There are instances that you may experience strong winds with heavy rainfall or just rain shower. Have you heard the news saying that there is low pressure area being monitored by PAGASA which could enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR? Do you know what does this mean? Let me help you to answer these questions. In the Philippines, we commonly call it bagyo. In our country, typhoon is one of our natural disasters because we are in what we call typhoon belt. All the things that typhoon needs are provided in the Philippines. Some factors that may cause typhoon are warm sea surface temperature, atmospheric instability, high humidity, Coriolis force to develop a low pressure center and wind. That is why Philippines has a lot of typhoons in a year. The name of tropical cyclones varies with respect to its position or location of the countries. We call it hurricanes in the North Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, and Gulf of Mexico, as well as those in Western Pacific Ocean. While typhoons in the Northwestern Pacific Ocean like Japan, China, Taiwan, and Philippines. Cyclones in the Indian Ocean, while willy-willies in the Australia. The following illustrations give you idea about how typhoon are formed. Number 1. Sun heats up the oceans or seas, especially warm ocean waters near the equator. Number 2. The hot temperature, which is low pressure from the oceans, moves up or will rise above the atmosphere. The temperature of the surface layer of ocean water must be 26.5 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer, and this warm layer must be at least 50 meters or 150 feet deep. When the low pressure meet the high pressure, wind will form. Number 4. Continuous circular motions between low pressure and high pressure, the wind speed increases. Number 5. Once the wind reaches a certain speed, a tropical cyclone or typhoon will be formed. This illustration shows you how the wind moves when the low pressure and high pressure meets. The high pressure wind moves outward or clockwise going to the low pressure. Therefore, the wind moves inward or counterclockwise in the low pressure area. Typhoon, or commonly called by Filipinos as bagyo, has actually different categories according to its maximum wind speed. When wind speed is between 45 to 61 kilometers per hour or kph, it is said to be a tropical depression. It is called tropical storm when the wind speed is between 62 to 88 kilometers per hour. While severe tropical storm has wind speed of 89 to 117 kilometers per hour. Typhoon has wind speed of between 118 to 220 kilometers per hour. When the wind speed is greater than 220 kilometers per hour, it is already a super typhoon. We can see here the video of a typhoon. This is the eye, which is the center of the typhoon. It is a calm region, while at the edges of the eye is what we call the eye wall. The eye wall is the most damaging winds and intense rainfall is found. Eye walls are called as such because oftentimes the eye is surrounded by a vertical wall of clouds. The eye wall can be seen in the picture as the thick wings surrounding the eye. The eye has an approximately 30 to 65 kilometers or 20 to 40 miles in diameter. Did you know that when the eye of the typhoon passes over a certain place, it is the winds at the eye wall that causes a lot of damage? As it approaches, one side of the eye wall brings a strong wind blowing in one direction. Then comes the eye with its somewhat the sky is clear or partly cloudy or simply having a calm weather. As it leaves, the other side of the eye wall brings strong winds again, but this time in the opposite direction. Do you know how important the Sierra Madre mountain range in the Philippines? This mountain range protects us against strong typhoon and cause to weaken as its landfall to certain area. Landforms tend to affect wind direction and therefore disrupt the spin of a typhoon, and it gets dissolved or weakened typhoons because of the lack of water to supply the needed moisture in the air. When the same air mass descends on the other side of the mountain, it contains a minimal amount of water vapor. When typhoon is over the oceans, ships at sea can be distressed for several days. As it approaches and moves across the coastline, it brings high waves or large dome of water from the sea, termed by meteorologists as storm surge. Technically, landforms and bodies of water on and around the Philippines affect the strength or weakness of weather phenomena such as typhoon. Notably, landforms lessen the strength of typhoons whenever the winds impact them. Moreover, oceans wherein the typhoons originate provide higher rainfall and strength. How does the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA come up with typhoon names like Ambo, Bashang, and Kaloy? PAGASA has been giving local names to storms that entered the PAR since 1963. It wasn't until 1998 when the public was involved in naming typhoons in the Philippines. That year, PAGASA held a Name a Bagyo contest that had Filipinos send their proposed local names for typhoons. From that nominations, a committee chose 140 Philippine typhoon names. They divide the list into 4 sets of 25 typhoon names, each starting with A to Z with additional 10 auxiliary names, each starting with A to J. It is a mix of male and female names as well as gender-neutral names. On average, 20 typhoons hit the Philippines every year. Each set of typhoon names in rotation every 4 years. PAGASA removes a name from its list if the storm has caused at least 300 deaths or 1 billion peso worth of agricultural and infrastructural damage.